Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your mind is not your enemy but your greatest ally, that the thoughts racing through your head no longer control you, but instead you control them. How different would your life be if you could silence the mental noise, break free from overthinking, and truly experience peace? The truth is, most people live as prisoners of their own minds, trapped in endless worries, self-doubt, and distractions. But what if I told you that the key to true freedom has been within you all along? Today we're going to uncover the secret to mastering your mind, because once you do, nothing in life can hold you back. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world ruled by the mind. From the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep, our thoughts are in constant motion, analyzing, worrying, planning, remembering. We believe that if we think hard enough, plan far enough, and control tightly enough, we will find peace. But let me ask you this, has that ever worked? The truth is, the mind was never meant to be your master. It was never meant to sit on the throne of your existence, dictating your every move, filling your days with doubt, fear, and endless chatter. The mind is a tool, an incredible tool, but a tool nonetheless. And just like fire can warm your home or burn it, the mind can be your greatest ally or your most relentless prison guard. Think about it. Have you ever felt trapped in your own thoughts? Have you ever replayed a conversation 100 times, worrying about what was said or what could have been said differently? Have you ever imagined worst-case scenarios that never came true but stole your peace anyway? That is what happens when the mind takes control. It becomes the master and you the servant. But what if I told you that you don't have to live this way? What if I told you that there is another way of being, one that is free, effortless, and deeply alive? You see, beneath all the noise of the mind, there is something more fundamental, something that has always been there. Call it presence, awareness, or simply being. This is not something you need to attain. It is something you already are. The only problem is, the mind is so loud that it drowns it out. So, how do we reclaim our rightful place? How do we stop being slaves to our thoughts and return to the effortless flow of life? First, we must recognize that we are not our thoughts. The fact that you can observe your thoughts means that they are not you. You are the awareness behind them. When a thought arises, don't cling to it, don't fight it, simply notice it. Watch it like clouds passing in the sky, and soon you will see that they have no power over you unless you give them power. Second, we must learn to trust life itself. The mind is constantly trying to control everything because it fears the unknown. But life is not meant to be controlled, it is meant to be lived. Look at nature. The rivers flow without force, the trees grow without stress, and yet everything finds its place. You are no different. The more you trust, the more life unfolds effortlessly. Lastly, we must return to the present moment. The mind thrives on past and future, rehashing old regrets and fabricating new worries. But reality only exists now. When you bring your attention to this moment, the breath, the sensations, the sheer aliveness of being, the mind loosens its grip, and you remember what it feels like to truly live. So, my friends, let us not be ruled by the mind. Let us use it when needed, but never be consumed by it. The mind is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. And once you see this clearly, you will no longer be a prisoner of thought, you will be free. The human mind is one of the most powerful forces in existence. It has created breathtaking works of art, built civilizations, and unlocked the secrets of the universe. The mind has the ability to solve complex problems, analyze situations, and project possibilities. It is an incredible instrument, capable of both logic and creativity. However, despite all its power, the mind is not meant to rule over us. It is a tool, something to be used when needed, but never something that should dictate the entirety of our experience. When the mind becomes the master instead of the servant, it can create unnecessary suffering. It fills our lives with anxiety, overthinking, and an endless cycle of worry. It convinces us that we must constantly be in control, always preparing for what comes next. And while planning and preparation have their place, an overactive mind often leads to a life dominated by stress rather than clarity. The mind can make us believe that we are in danger when, in reality, we are simply trapped in our thoughts. It can keep us reliving past mistakes or dreading future uncertainties, making it difficult to experience the present moment fully. One of the greatest misconceptions is that the mind is who we are. From an early age, we are taught to identify with our thoughts. We believe that because we think something, it must be true. But thoughts are just passing occurrences. They arise, linger for a while, and then fade, only to be replaced by new ones. If we were truly our thoughts, then who is it that observes them? Who is it that notices when a thought arises and disappears? The simple fact that we can observe our thoughts means that we are something beyond them. We are the awareness behind the mind, the consciousness that notices its movements. This realization is incredibly freeing. When we understand that the mind is not our master, we no longer have to be at its mercy. We can begin to see thoughts for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and often unreliable. Not every thought deserves our attention or belief. Just because the mind presents a fearful scenario does not mean it is real. Just because it replays an embarrassing moment does not mean that moment defines us. The thoughts do not have inherent power, they only have the power we give them. The problem arises when we become entangled with our thoughts, giving them more importance than they deserve. The mind is constantly generating ideas, assumptions, and predictions, but not all of them are useful. Some thoughts may be helpful, such as remembering an important task or analyzing a situation to make a better decision. Others, however, are simply distractions, mental noise that serves no purpose other than to keep us caught in an endless loop of thinking. Recognizing this difference is crucial. If we can observe our thoughts without getting lost in them, we gain a sense of freedom. We can decide which thoughts to engage with and which to let pass without attachment. One way to see this more clearly is to think of the mind like a computer. A computer is an extraordinary tool that can perform countless functions. It can calculate complex equations, store vast amounts of information, and create stunning works of digital art. However, no one would say that the computer is the person using it. The user operates the computer, deciding which programs to run and which files to open. If the computer begins to malfunction or display irrelevant data, the user does not have to accept it as truth. The same is true for the mind. Just because a thought appears does not mean we have to accept it or act on it. We have the power to direct our attention where it is needed rather than allowing the mind to control us. When the mind rules us, life becomes exhausting. We are constantly trying to figure everything out, always looking for the next problem to solve. The mind thrives on this because its nature is to analyze and seek solutions. However, not everything in life requires analysis. Sometimes the best experiences come when we step away from thinking and simply allow ourselves to be. The most profound moments, whether watching a sunset, laughing with a friend, or feeling a deep sense of peace, do not come from thinking but from presence. The mind is often so busy trying to label and define everything that it misses the beauty of simply experiencing life as it is. To reclaim authority over the mind, we must cultivate awareness. This means stepping back and noticing how often we are caught in unnecessary thinking. It means recognizing when the mind is generating fear that has no basis in reality, or when it is replaying old memories that no longer serve us. Awareness allows us to see that the mind is not in control unless we allow it to be. We do not have to suppress our thoughts or fight them. Instead, we observe them, allowing them to come and go without becoming attached. Meditation is one of the most effective ways to develop this awareness. When we sit in stillness and watch our thoughts, we begin to see how transient they are. We see that no single thought defines us. We also start to notice the spaces between thoughts, moments of pure awareness where the mind is silent. In these moments, we realize that we are something far greater than the stream of mental activity. We are the presence that exists beyond the thinking mind, the stillness that remains when thoughts fade away. Another powerful practice is to focus on the body and the breath. The mind is constantly pulling us into the past or the future, but the body is always in the present. When we shift our attention to physical sensations, the feeling of the air on our skin, the rhythm of our breath with the here around ourselves in the here and now, this simple shift takes power away from the mind's endless chatter and brings us back to reality. It is also helpful to question the thoughts that arise. Many of the beliefs we carry are not our own, but were conditioned into us by society, family, or past experiences. When a thought appears, we can ask, is this true? Is this useful? Does this thought serve me, or is it just a habitual pattern? By questioning our thoughts, rather than accepting them blindly, we begin to see how many of them are unnecessary. Over time, as we practice awareness and presence, the mind's grip on us loosens. It does not mean that thinking disappears altogether. The mind will still generate thoughts, but they no longer control us. We use the mind when needed, solving problems, making decisions, planning for the future, but we no longer live entirely within it. Instead, we learn to trust something deeper: intuition, presence, and the natural flow of life. This shift brings a profound sense of freedom. Life no longer feels like a constant battle against our own thoughts. Instead, there is a sense of ease, a recognition that we do not have to believe everything the mind says. We can appreciate the mind for what it is: a remarkable tool, but we no longer mistake it for who we are. We step out of the endless loop of thinking and into the vast, open space of awareness where life unfolds effortlessly. The human mind is an incredible instrument, capable of problem solving, creativity, and deep reflection. It allows us to plan for the future, learn from the past, and navigate the complexities of life. However, when the mind becomes overly active and caught in a cycle of repetitive thinking, it can turn against us. Instead of being a tool for clarity and insight, it becomes a source of distress, filling our days with unnecessary worry and self-doubt. Overthinking is the process of analyzing, dissecting, and reanalyzing situations to the point where it no longer serves a useful purpose. Rather than providing solutions, it creates confusion, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. One of the most damaging aspects of overthinking is its ability to trap us in the past. The mind replays old events like a broken record, revisiting mistakes, regrets, and missed opportunities. It scrutinizes past conversations, wondering if the wrong words were spoken or if a different approach could have led to a better outcome. This constant re-examination creates a sense of guilt or shame, even when there is nothing that can be done to change what has already happened. The past exists only in memory, yet overthinking keeps it alive as if it were still unfolding. The more we dwell on what cannot be altered, the more we suffer. Just as the mind lingers in the past, it also projects itself into the future, imagining countless scenarios, many of which are negative. It worries about what could go wrong, creating endless possibilities of failure, rejection, or disappointment. This anticipation of future suffering generates stress in the present moment, even when nothing is actually happening. The mind convinces us that we must prepare for every possible outcome, but in doing so, it steals our peace. Life is uncertain, and no amount of thinking can provide absolute control over what will come next. Yet, overthinking makes us believe that if we analyze a situation enough, we can prevent any undesirable event from occurring. This illusion of control keeps us stuck in a mental loop, constantly seeking solutions for problems that do not yet exist. Overthinking also fuels self-doubt, making even simple decisions feel overwhelming. The mind plays out every possible consequence, making it difficult to take action. A person who overthinks might hesitate to make a career move, fearing that they will make the wrong choice. They may struggle to express their thoughts in a conversation, analyzing every word before speaking. This hesitation leads to missed opportunities, reinforcing the belief that they are incapable of making good decisions. The more a person doubts themselves, the more they feel the need to overthink, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. Instead of trusting their instincts or using logic to make a reasonable choice, they remain stuck in a loop of indecision and hesitation. Relationships are also deeply affected by overthinking. When the mind is constantly analyzing interactions, it creates unnecessary misunderstandings and insecurities. A simple text message without an immediate response can spiral into overanalysis, leading to thoughts like, "Did I say something wrong?" Or, "Are they upset with me?" A minor disagreement can turn into a days-long mental replay of what was said and how it could have been said differently. This kind of thinking not only creates suffering for the overthinker, but also puts strain on relationships. Instead of experiencing connections as they unfold, the mind distorts reality, leading to assumptions, doubts, and fears that may have no basis in truth. Overthinking also disconnects us from the present moment. The mind is either fixated on the past or worried about the future, rarely allowing us to fully engage in what is happening right now. A person may be physically present in a beautiful setting, but mentally lost in their thoughts, unable to enjoy their surroundings. They may be having a conversation with a loved one, but be too distracted by their internal dialogue to truly listen. This constant mental activity prevents them from experiencing life fully, leading to a sense of emptiness or dissatisfaction. The present moment is the only reality that truly exists, yet overthinking pulls us away from it, making it difficult to find peace and joy. The body also suffers when the mind is in a state of overactivity. Overthinking triggers the body's stress response, flooding it with cortisol and adrenaline. While this response is helpful in moments of actual danger, it becomes harmful when activated constantly due to imagined fears and worries. Chronic stress caused by overthinking can lead to physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle tension, fatigue, and digestive issues. Sleep is often disrupted as the mind refuses to slow down, keeping the body in a state of alertness even when it is time to rest. The more the mind engages in overthinking, the more the body suffers the consequences, creating a cycle of mental and physical distress. One of the reasons overthinking is so persistent is that it gives the illusion of productivity. The mind believes that by thinking endlessly about a situation, it is working toward a solution. However, in reality, overthinking rarely leads to meaningful action. It creates the appearance of effort while keeping us stuck in inaction. Instead of solving problems, it amplifies them, making them seem larger and more complicated than they actually are. True problem solving requires clarity and decisiveness, but overthinking clouds the mind, making even small tasks feel overwhelming. Breaking free from overthinking requires a shift in awareness. The first step is recognizing when the mind is caught in unnecessary analysis. Awareness allows us to see the difference between productive thinking and mental noise. Once we notice this pattern, we can begin to step back and create space between ourselves and our thoughts. Rather than engaging with every worry or regret, we can observe thoughts as passing events, much like clouds moving across the sky. We do not have to chase every thought or believe every mental story the mind presents. Another way to break free from overthinking is to return to the body and the present moment. Focusing on the breath, engaging in physical movement, or simply observing the sensations of the present can pull us out of the mental spiral. The body is always in the present, while the mind is often stuck in the past or future. By shifting attention to what is real in the here and now, the grip of overthinking loosens. Taking action is also a powerful antidote to overthinking. When faced with a decision, it is often better to make a reasonable choice and adjust as needed rather than remain paralyzed by endless analysis. Life is unpredictable, and no decision is ever completely risk-free. Trusting oneself and taking small steps forward can break the cycle of hesitation and fear. Letting go of perfectionism is another important step. Overthinking is often driven by the desire to make the perfect choice, say the perfect words, or avoid all possible mistakes. But perfection is an illusion. No matter how much we analyze, there will always be factors beyond our control. Accepting that mistakes are part of growth and that uncertainty is part of life allows us to move forward with greater ease. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence or carefulness. It is a habit that leads to unnecessary suffering. While the mind is a powerful tool, it is not meant to dominate our experience. By learning to quiet the mind, trust ourselves, and engage with life as it unfolds, we can free ourselves from the grip of overthinking. The more we step out of mental loops and into present awareness, the more we discover that peace and clarity were always available, waiting beneath the noise of the mind. Thoughts arise constantly, forming an endless stream of ideas, memories, and emotions. The mind generates these thoughts without effort, often jumping from one to another without clear direction. While it may seem natural to identify with this mental activity, to believe that thoughts define who we are, the reality is quite different. Thoughts are fleeting, impermanent, and often unreliable. They come and go like clouds in the sky, appearing from nowhere and dissolving just as quickly. Recognizing that thoughts do not define identity is a profound realization, one that allows for greater peace, freedom, and clarity. The mind is a storyteller, weaving narratives about life, the self, and the world. These stories can be inspiring, but they can also be misleading. A single thought can create joy or sadness, confidence or self-doubt, hope or despair. Yet, just because a thought appears does not make it true. The mind often presents distorted interpretations of reality shaped by past experiences, fears, and expectations. A person may have the thought, "I am not good enough," but that does not make it a fact. Another may think, "I will fail," even when there is no evidence to support it. The power of thought lies not in its truth, but in the attention it receives. Believing that thoughts define who we are can lead to unnecessary suffering. When negative or self-critical thoughts arise, they can create a false sense of identity, leading to feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. A person may experience a moment of anger and think, "I am an angry person," or feel sadness and conclude, "I am a depressed person." But emotions and thoughts are temporary experiences, not permanent states of being. Just as the weather changes from stormy to calm, so too does the mind shift from one thought to another. Clinging to any single thought or emotion as an identity limits the ability to experience life fully. The ability to observe thoughts without attachment reveals a deeper truth. There is something beyond thought, a presence that is aware of thinking itself. This awareness is unchanging, even as thoughts fluctuate. It is the silent observer, the consciousness that notices thoughts without becoming entangled in them. This realization is powerful because it shifts the relationship with the mind. Instead of being controlled by thoughts, one can step back and witness them with curiosity and detachment. Meditation and mindfulness practices help cultivate this awareness. By sitting in stillness and observing the mind, it becomes clear how thoughts arise and pass on their own. Some thoughts are random, some are repetitive, and many are unnecessary. But in the space between thoughts, there is a presence that remains untouched. This presence is not defined by any single thought, but is the vast awareness in which all thoughts appear. The more this awareness is cultivated, the easier it becomes to let go of thoughts that do not serve well-being. When the mind is overactive, it creates a sense of restlessness, making it difficult to experience peace. The constant stream of mental chatter pulls attention in different directions, making it hard to focus on the present moment. This mental noise often leads to stress, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. However, by recognizing that thoughts are separate from true identity, it becomes possible to detach from them, creating space for calmness and clarity. The mind is conditioned by past experiences, absorbing beliefs from culture, family, and society. Many of these beliefs shape thoughts without conscious awareness. A person raised in an environment where success is equated with external achievements may have thoughts that constantly push them toward perfectionism and fear of failure. Another who has experienced rejection may have recurring thoughts of self-doubt. These patterns, though deeply ingrained, are not inherent truths. They are simply learned mental habits. And like any habit, they can be changed. Breaking free from limiting thought patterns requires awareness and intention. Instead of automatically believing every thought, one can begin to question them. Is this thought true? Does it serve my well-being? Would I choose to think this way if I had the option? By examining thoughts critically, it becomes clear that many are simply conditioned responses rather than reflections of reality. This recognition allows for greater freedom as thoughts lose their power to dictate emotions and actions. Another way to disengage from thoughts is to shift attention to the present moment. The body is always in the present, while the mind tends to dwell in the past or future. Focusing on physical sensations, the feeling of the breath, the warmth of the sun, the sound of birds anchors in what is real. This simple shift pulls attention away from the endless cycle of thinking and into direct experience. The more often this practice is cultivated, the less control thoughts have over emotions and actions. Emotional reactions are often intensified by thoughts. A single event can trigger a cascade of mental stories, turning a brief moment of frustration into hours of inner turmoil. For example, if a person receives criticism at work, the mind may begin generating thoughts like I am a failure, I am not respected, or I will never succeed. These thoughts amplify the emotional response, creating unnecessary suffering. However, when there is awareness that these are just thoughts, automatic mental reactions, rather than absolute truths, it becomes easier to let them go. The event itself was neutral. It was the mind's interpretation that created distress. Letting go of thoughts does not mean suppressing them or ignoring them. Instead, it means observing them without attachment, much like watching leaves float down a river. Some thoughts may be useful and worth engaging with, while others can simply be acknowledged and released. This practice creates mental clarity, allowing space for more intentional and peaceful living. Over time, as awareness deepens, thoughts lose their grip. They still arise, but they no longer dictate emotions and actions. A sense of inner stillness develops, one that is not disturbed by the fluctuations of the mind. This stillness is always present, even in the busiest moments, beneath all the noise of thinking. It is the foundation of true self-awareness, a space of calmness that remains untouched by the ever-changing stream of thought. By recognizing that thoughts are not who we are, a profound transformation occurs. No longer trapped in mental narratives, there is freedom to experience life directly. Joy arises not from controlling thoughts, but from letting them pass without attachment. Peace is not found in eliminating all thinking, but in no longer being ruled by it. This realization allows for a deeper connection to the present, to others, and to the true nature of existence. Life is inherently unpredictable. No matter how much effort is put into planning, controlling, or trying to shape outcomes, there will always be factors beyond human influence. The desire for control comes from a deep-rooted need for security, a belief that if things go exactly as planned, happiness and success will follow. Yet, the more one tries to control life, the more resistance is encountered. Situations do not always unfold as expected. People do not always behave in predictable ways, and circumstances often take surprising turns. This resistance leads to frustration, stress, and disappointment. Trusting life, rather than attempting to control it, offers a more peaceful and fulfilling way to navigate existence. The need for control stems from fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of pain. The mind convinces itself that by micromanaging every detail, uncertainty can be eliminated. However, life does not operate on human terms. The unexpected is a constant, and no amount of effort can guarantee a specific outcome. Instead of clinging to control, learning to trust life means accepting its natural flow. This does not mean giving up on goals or ignoring responsibilities, but rather recognizing that not everything needs to be forced. Some of the most beautiful moments, opportunities, and relationships arise not from rigid control, but from openness and surrender. Trying to control life often leads to unnecessary suffering. Plans fall apart, relationships change, jobs are lost, and circumstances shift in ways that were never anticipated. When the mind is attached to a specific outcome, any deviation from that expectation creates stress. The more tightly control is held, the more painful it becomes when things do not go according to plan. Trusting life means understanding that change is inevitable, and that resisting it only creates struggle. By embracing uncertainty instead of fearing it, there is an opportunity to move through life with greater ease. One of the most freeing realizations is that life often knows better than the mind. There are countless instances where things did not go as planned, only to lead to something unexpectedly better. A missed opportunity, a rejection, or a change in direction might seem frustrating in the moment, but later reveal itself as a blessing in disguise. When control is loosened, life has the space to unfold naturally. What is meant to be will find its way, often in ways that could not have been predicted or orchestrated through force. Trusting life requires faith, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in the understanding that things have a way of working out. It is about believing in the process, even when the outcome is unclear. This trust does not mean passivity or a lack of effort. Rather, it means doing what can be done and then releasing attachment to the result. It is the balance between action and surrender, putting in effort without the need for absolute control. The illusion of control often creates tension in relationships. The desire to control others to shape their thoughts, decisions, or behaviors leads to conflict and frustration. Every person has their own journey, their own lessons to learn, and their own experiences to navigate. Trying to control someone else only leads to resistance, resentment, or disconnection. Trusting life also means trusting others to find their own way. Offering support, guidance, and love is valuable, but attempting to dictate another person's path is futile. True connection comes from acceptance rather than control. The same principle applies to personal growth. Self-improvement is often approached with an attitude of forced pushing, striving, and trying to control every aspect of development. Yet, growth is not always a linear process. There are setbacks, moments of doubt, and unexpected detours. Trusting life means understanding that progress happens in its own time. Just as a tree does not force itself to grow but naturally expands with the seasons, personal evolution unfolds when given the right conditions. Forcing change often leads to burnout, while allowing it to happen naturally creates lasting transformation. Nature offers a perfect example of trusting life. Rivers do not force their way through obstacles, they flow around them. Seasons change without resistance. The sun rises and sets without needing to be controlled. Everything in nature operates in harmony because it does not resist its own nature. When humans try to control life too rigidly, they step out of this natural rhythm, creating unnecessary struggle. Learning to move with life rather than against it brings a sense of peace and alignment. Letting go of control also means releasing attachment to the past. Holding on to regrets, mistakes, or old wounds keeps the mind trapped in a reality that no longer exists. Trusting life means accepting that the past is unchangeable and that every experience, good or bad, was part of the journey. There is freedom in letting go, in understanding that the past does not define the future. Each new moment is an opportunity to begin again, to move forward without the weight of what was. Similarly, the future is uncertain, no matter how much it is planned for. Worrying about what might happen does not prevent difficulties, it only drains energy from the present. Trusting life means recognizing that the future will unfold as it is meant to, and that worrying about it does not change the outcome. Preparation is valuable, but obsession over the unknown only creates anxiety. The present moment is the only space where life is truly experienced, and placing trust in it allows for a richer, more fulfilling existence. Trusting life does not mean there will never be challenges. Difficulties, loss, and hardship are part of the human experience. However, suffering is amplified when there is resistance to what is happening. Accepting reality as it is, rather than trying to control or fight against it, allows for resilience. When challenges arise, they can be faced with grace rather than panic. Often, what appears to be an obstacle is an opportunity for growth, strength, or a new direction that would not have been considered otherwise. Releasing the need for control also cultivates a deeper sense of gratitude. When the mind is focused on controlling the future, it overlooks the beauty of what is already present. There is so much to appreciate in each moment. But when attention is placed on what is missing or what needs to be fixed, the gifts of the present are ignored. Trusting life means embracing what is here now, finding joy in simple moments, appreciating the journey rather than fixating solely on the destination. At its core, trusting life is an act of surrender. It is a choice to stop fighting against the natural flow and instead move with it. It is about understanding that not everything needs to be controlled for things to work out. The universe operates in ways that are far more complex and interconnected than can be understood from a limited human perspective. Trying to force outcomes only creates tension, while allowing life to unfold naturally brings a sense of ease. In the end, the greatest freedom comes from releasing control. Trusting life means stepping into the unknown with confidence, knowing that even when things do not go as planned, they are still unfolding as they are meant to. It is about embracing uncertainty, letting go of rigid expectations, and finding peace in the flow of existence. When trust replaces control, life becomes lighter, more vibrant, and filled with unexpected beauty. The present moment is all that truly exists. The past is nothing more than memories stored in the mind, and the future is a projection of possibilities that have yet to unfold. Yet, despite this simple truth, the mind is often consumed with thoughts about what has already happened or what might happen next. It constantly replays past events, analyzing what went wrong, or projects into the future, worrying about what is yet to come. In this process, the present moment, the only reality that can actually be experienced, is often overlooked. Learning to fully embrace the present moment is the key to living with greater peace, joy, and clarity. The mind is naturally restless, always seeking something beyond what is happening right now. It chases after future goals, thinking that fulfillment will come once a certain milestone is reached. Once I get that job, then I'll be happy. Once I find the right relationship, my life will be complete. Once I have more money, I'll finally feel secure. This kind of thinking creates a constant sense of dissatisfaction, because as soon as one goal is achieved, the mind immediately sets another. The cycle never ends, leaving a person always striving but never fully satisfied. The truth is that happiness is not found in the future. It is only ever found in the present. Dwelling on the past is equally problematic. The mind replays past mistakes, regrets, or painful experiences, believing that by analyzing them, they can somehow be changed or made right. But the past is unchangeable. No amount of thinking about it can alter what has already happened. The only thing that can be controlled is how the present moment is experienced. If the mind is trapped in past regrets, it becomes impossible to see the opportunities and beauty that exist right now. Being fully present means letting go of the need to control time. It means accepting that the past is gone and the future is unknown. It means choosing to give full attention to what is happening in this very moment without resistance or distraction. When life is lived in this way, everything becomes more vivid, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. A simple conversation becomes richer when the mind is not wandering elsewhere. A walk in nature becomes more beautiful when attention is fully placed on the sights, sounds, and sensations of the moment. Even ordinary tasks like eating or washing dishes become more enjoyable when they are approached with full awareness. One of the greatest obstacles to being present is the tendency to judge the moment as good or bad. The mind labels experiences based on expectations, deciding whether something is pleasant or unpleasant, desirable or undesirable. This constant evaluation creates resistance to what is happening. If a situation is not what was expected, frustration arises. If it does not match a preconceived idea of happiness, disappointment follows. But when the present moment is fully accepted as it is, without labeling or judgment, a deep sense of peace emerges. There is no need to fight against what is happening, only to experience it fully. Mindfulness is a powerful practice that helps cultivate presence. It involves bringing attention to what is happening right now, whether it is the breath, bodily sensations, or the surrounding environment. When the mind starts to wander into past memories or future worries, it can be gently guided back to the present. This practice strengthens the ability to stay engaged in the moment, reducing stress and increasing a sense of clarity. The breath is one of the simplest yet most effective anchors to the present moment. It is always happening in real time, making it a reliable point of focus. By paying attention to the inhale and exhale, the mind is naturally drawn into the present. This technique is often used in meditation to cultivate awareness, but it can also be applied in everyday situations. Taking a few conscious breaths before responding to a difficult situation, before starting a task, or even in moments of joy helps deepen the connection to the present. The body is another gateway to presence. Unlike the mind, which constantly shifts between past and future, the body is always in the now. Bringing awareness to physical sensations, whether it is the feeling of the feet on the ground, the warmth of the sun on the skin, or the rhythm of the heartbeat, grounds attention in the present. This is why activities like yoga, running, or even dancing can create a deep sense of presence. They require full engagement with the body, drawing focus away from mental distractions. Engaging the senses is another way to reconnect with the present. Sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell are always experiencing the world in real time. Noticing the vibrant colors of the sky, listening to the subtle sounds in the environment, feeling textures, savoring flavors, and breathing in scents can all bring a deeper appreciation for the moment. Life is happening through the senses, but when the mind is lost in thought, these experiences go unnoticed. Being present does not mean ignoring responsibilities or failing to plan for the future. It simply means approaching each moment with full awareness rather than being mentally elsewhere. Plans can be made, goals can be set, and actions can be taken, But they do not have to come at the cost of missing out on the now. By fully engaging with the process, rather than fixating only on the outcome, everything becomes more meaningful. Emotions are another aspect of life that are best experienced in the present. Often difficult emotions like sadness, anger, or anxiety are resisted, leading to suppression or avoidance. But emotions, like thoughts, are temporary. When fully felt and acknowledged without judgment, they naturally rise and fall, passing like waves. Resisting them only prolongs suffering, while embracing them with presence allows them to move through more freely. Presence also enhances relationships. When fully listening to another person, rather than thinking about what to say next or being distracted by other thoughts, a deeper connection is formed. People can sense when they are truly being heard and valued. Presence fosters empathy, understanding, and authenticity in relationships, making interactions more meaningful and fulfilling. The mind often tricks itself into believing that fulfillment lies somewhere in the future, just beyond reach. But the truth is, everything that is needed to experience peace, joy, and contentment is already here in the present. When fully engaged in the now, life takes on a new depth. The small moments which might have once seemed insignificant become the most precious. There is a deep freedom in realizing that the present moment is enough. There is nothing to fix, nothing to chase, nothing missing. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should, and within this moment lies the key to true fulfillment. Life does not need to be controlled or forced, it simply needs to be experienced one moment at a time. The mind is one of the most powerful tools a person possesses. It has the ability to create, analyze, solve problems, and imagine possibilities beyond what is immediately visible. However, for many people, the mind is not something they control, it is something that controls them. The thoughts arise without invitation, emotions fluctuate unpredictably, and mental chatter seems endless. The inability to master the mind leads to stress, anxiety, and an overwhelming sense of being trapped in one's own thoughts. True freedom comes not from changing external circumstances, but from mastering the mind itself. A mind that is not mastered can feel like an unruly force, constantly pulling attention in different directions. It jumps from one thought to another, worrying about the future, dwelling on the past, or creating imagined problems that do not even exist. This constant movement can be exhausting. The mind has a tendency to create stories, adding layers of interpretation to simple events. A minor inconvenience can turn into a full-blown crisis if the mind is allowed to run unchecked. Mastering the mind means learning to step back from this automatic process and seeing thoughts for what they really are: temporary, fleeting, and often unreliable. One of the first steps in mastering the mind is recognizing that thoughts are not absolute truths. Just because the mind generates a thought does not mean it is real or meaningful. The mind produces thousands of thoughts each day, some of which are useful, but many of which are unnecessary or even harmful. A person might think, "I am not good enough," or "I will never succeed," but these are not facts, they are simply thoughts that arise. By learning to observe these thoughts without attaching to them, they lose their power. This ability to witness the mind rather than be controlled by it is a fundamental aspect of mental freedom. Emotions are deeply connected to the mind and can also become a source of suffering if not managed properly. When negative emotions arise, such as anger, sadness, or fear, the mind often fuels them by replaying past events or imagining worst-case scenarios. This cycle can make emotions feel overwhelming. However, emotions are temporary, they rise and fall like waves. By mastering the mind, it becomes possible to experience emotions without being consumed by them. Instead of reacting impulsively, there is space to respond with clarity and wisdom. Meditation and mindfulness are powerful tools for gaining mastery over the mind. Through meditation, the mind is trained to focus and remain still, rather than constantly wandering. In the beginning, sitting in silence can feel difficult, because thoughts continue to rush in. But over time, practicing meditation helps create a gap between awareness and thought. This gap is where true freedom lies. Instead of being controlled by every passing thought, there is the ability to choose which thoughts deserve attention and which can simply pass by. Mindfulness, the practice of bringing full attention to the present moment, also plays a crucial role in mastering the mind. The mind often resists the present, preferring to dwell in the past or future. But life is only ever happening now. By training the mind to focus on what is happening in the present moment, whether it is breathing, walking, eating, or engaging in conversation, mental distractions lose their grip. This creates a sense of calm and clarity, making it easier to navigate life's challenges with ease. Another key aspect of mastering the mind is learning to detach from the ego. The ego is the part of the mind that constantly seeks validation, compares itself to others, and fears failure. It is the source of pride, insecurity, and the need for control. The ego thrives on external approval, making happiness dependent on outside circumstances. When something goes wrong, the ego takes it personally, creating suffering. Mastery over the mind means seeing beyond the ego's illusions and understanding that true self-worth is not based on achievement, status, or opinions. It comes from within. The mind also has a habit of resisting change, clinging to what is familiar even when it is not beneficial. Fear of the unknown keeps many people stuck in situations that do not serve them. Whether it is an unfulfilling job, a toxic relationship, or an old belief system, the mind prefers comfort over growth. However, true freedom requires embracing change rather than fearing it. When the mind is mastered, it becomes easier to adapt to new experiences, seeing them as opportunities rather than threats. Letting go of attachment is another crucial step toward mental freedom. The mind often clings to desires, believing that happiness depends on achieving certain outcomes. It attaches to material possessions, relationships, and specific life circumstances. But attachment creates suffering because everything in life is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. And when attachment is strong, loss becomes unbearable. By mastering the mind, there is an understanding that nothing external can provide lasting fulfillment. Instead, true peace comes from within, independent of external conditions. A mind that is not mastered is easily influenced by external factors. Social media, news, and advertising constantly feed the mind with information, much of which creates stress, comparison, or distraction. Without awareness, the mind absorbs these influences without question, shaping beliefs and emotions based on external narratives. Mastery over the mind means becoming conscious of what is allowed into mental space. It means questioning thoughts, filtering information, and choosing what to engage with rather than passively consuming everything presented. Self-discipline is another essential component of mental mastery. The mind naturally seeks instant gratification, preferring comfort over effort. It wants to avoid discomfort, procrastinate on important tasks, and indulge in distractions. Without discipline, this leads to a lack of focus, wasted time, and unfulfilled potential. Mastering the mind means developing the ability to override impulses and stay committed to long-term goals. It means having control over attention, directing it toward what truly matters rather than what provides temporary pleasure. Mastery over the mind also transforms the way challenges are approached. Instead of seeing difficulties as obstacles, they are viewed as opportunities for growth. A person with an untrained mind reacts to adversity with frustration, fear, or self-doubt. But someone who has mastered their mind remains calm and centered, recognizing that challenges are an inevitable part of life. They do not resist hardship, but instead find ways to navigate it with wisdom and resilience. Mental mastery brings a profound sense of inner freedom. External circumstances no longer dictate happiness or peace of mind. Even in difficult situations, there is an inner stability that remains unshaken. Thoughts and emotions are no longer in control. Instead, they are tools that can be used consciously. Life is no longer lived in reaction to every passing thought or emotion, but is instead guided by awareness and intention. Ultimately, mastery over the mind is the path to true liberation. It allows for a life that is not dictated by fear, doubt, or unnecessary suffering. It opens the door to greater clarity, creativity, and a deeper connection to the present moment. When the mind is mastered, freedom is not something that needs to be found. It is something that has always been present, waiting to be realized.